spoke about what their perceptions of the root causes of conflict in South Sudan is. What was remarkable about yesterday's session, let me just go back a little bit, is that we did not speak as parties per se. The conversation was held in the spirit of we are all South Sudanese. These are our problems, wherever we stand, whether it's government or opposition or civil society stakeholders. And so we were having those discussions not as a finger pointing and blame. We were having those discussions as to truly understand where we are, what the realities are on ground, and then looking at the next step to that would be then looking at what provisions of previous agreements covered those concerns, why they were not implemented, how to ensure they're implemented, and then what the gaps are, and then how to now cover those gaps. So the opposition started by making its presentation. It was led by the lead negotiator from the opposition side, General Pagan, and then the rest of the opposition delegates also made their contributions. After that, there was a deliberation together with the government delegation, and the government delegation said that they welcome the presentation by the opposition. They are going to request the opposition to share the root causes that they have presented, so that they as government can go and deliberate, internalize it, and get back to us in the next plenary. After that, the stakeholders also made, we also made our presentation. And our presentation was not so different, I would say. It was just the way we presented ours. We had the categories and then the details of it, and it was equally well received. Before we both made our presentations, the resource person of the secretariat also first made their presentation as a grounding, just to give the parameters of the conversation that we're having, so that there was no digressing, there was no finger pointing. It was just laying the baseline for those conversations. And I think the conversations were very fruitful. They were presented with a genuine sense of honesty and genuine intention of bringing peace. There was no finger pointing. The language was civil. The mood was somber in the room. It was a heavy conversation, I must say. After deliberating, the mediation then recommended that in the next when we resume talks tomorrow on Saturday, it would be a co-chaired session by the leaders of the government and the opposition delegation. And they will then be the ones, because this is also about ownership and taking ownership of this process as South Sudanese.
You've accepted?
Yes, they have accepted. The mediation team will not be in the room, and it will be another South-South dialogue amongst us as South Sudanese, because these are also sensitive issues to discuss. What's also interesting is this is not the first time that we're holding a South-South dialogue. If you remember, in the first round of talks, when there was a stalemate, civil society requested stakeholders requested to mediate, and we took over the facilitation role, and we facilitated between the two parties. If you also remember, in the second round of talks, when there was a stalemate, the stakeholders also then requested to present proposals, bridging proposals, to both government and opposition. So this is also part of the continued trust and confidence building, but also taking ownership. And so last time it was the stakeholders facilitating. This time it is the government and opposition as co-chairs facilitating starting tomorrow.
Right. And someone might be wondering there and asking this question, what is in the document? You said the presentation wasn't that different from the one of the government. But can you mention some of the examples? What are some of the root causes of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan? Some of the problems that brought us here, actually.
Let me make this disclaimer and say there was nothing new. Okay, there was nothing new. There was nothing new that was not reflected in documents like the National Dialogue, in the SPLM Manifesto, you know, in our collective aspirations as citizens. There was nothing new from what the callers of iRadio have been mentioning to us every day. We touched on economy. We talked on issues to do with the leadership crisis that we currently have. Issues of social issues like climate-related issues, communal conflict. It was nothing new. Let me just put it like that. It was nothing new. I think I will even be bold enough as to say, during our presentation, I also remarked that, you know, now that I am somebody's mother, these are the same issues that as a child was enumerated to me as the cause we were in refuge at that time. So it feels like we are marching on the same spot. I mean, there have been achievements, of course, but if we're still facing the same issues over 30 plus years later, it means then our approach as a nation, as governments, as people has been wrong. Perhaps we need to recalibrate.
And خلينا ممكن نسألك بعربي برضو للمستمعين دكتورة اياك، يعني في تقييمك يمكن المبادرة ده حيشيل كم من الزمن؟ والبند الثاني اللي بنتكلم فيه الجذور بتاعت الكونفليكت في جنوب السودان ده من المتوقع انه يشيل كم زمن النقاش فيه؟ وتقييمك شنو عامة على اساس على مبادرة بتاعت تموين؟ هل انت بتشوف انه ده فعلا امل انه ممكن يساهم نوعا ما في السلام الحقيقي في جنوب السودان؟
طيب انا شكرا تاني لاسئلتك ايمانويل. ممكن اقول انه مبادرة تمايني للسلام اللي هي طمأنينة أو مبادرة الأمل، المبادرة دي قد النظر النتائجها شنو، أو حتى ولو في النهاية إحنا قمنا ومضينا السلام، ما هتعني شيء لو الأطراف المعنية ما قدرت تنفذ البنود المتفق عليها. فدي ده ناخده بجنب كده. ومن الحاجات اللي عرفوها كجذور المشكلة هي عدم تنفيذ الدائم للاتفاقيات، أو دي حاجة برضو مطروحة كواحد من سبب الأزمات اللي عندنا في جنوب السودان، أو مسبب أساسي للأزمات. احنا اتكلمنا عن جذور المشكلة، واحنا عارفين انه قضية جذور المشكلة دي ما حاجة جديدة، دي يعني قضية حتى هي كانت قضية ثورية بالنسبة للحركة الشعبية، قضية اللي هي أدت لميلاد بتاعت دولة جنوب السودان، وهي باين عليها انه حتى بعد ده كله احنا لسه ما قدرنا كحكومة كمواطنين كشعب ما قدرنا نجد حلول لجذور المشكلة دي، او ما اتطرقنا لها بالطريقة اللي مفروض. فهسه الأمس المعارضة وأصحاب المصلحة قدمنا وجهة نظرنا فما هي جذور المشكلة، والحكومة بكرة حيكون في المقدمة إنه يطرح لنا برضو هم شايفين شنو هي جذور المشكلة، عشان نقوم نعمل اتفاق على ما هو جذور الأزمات اللي عندنا، مشاكل اللي عندنا في جنوب السودان. وبعد ده حيكون نقطة الانطلاق للمفاوضات. فدي المفاوضات دي هتاخد كم فترة زمنية؟ والله أنا بشوف إنه إحنا لما نشوف اتفاقيات المنصرمة، مثلا اتفاقية كانت اتفاقية أديس أخذت زيادة يعني فوق السنة، أكثر من سنة، تقريبا 18 شهر. فما في اتفاقية بتاعت سلام بتحصل بين يوم وليلة. احنا شفنا برضو اتفاقية روما أخذت 4 سنين وما حتى أدت لاتفاقية، لكن الأوراد البنود اللي كان متفق عليها في روما بقت اللي هي بيسس للاتفاقية بتاعت تومايني. فإحنا بنشوف من وجهة نظري إنه ما في وضوح. الاتفاقية دي هتاخد كم زمن، لكن احنا شايفين انه الوساطة مستعجلين فعلا، واحنا شايفين برضو الاطراف عندهم نية يصلوا لنهاية بتاعت الاتفاقية دي بأسرع وقت، لكن ما عاوزين يصلوا ليها بكلفة. لو في حاجة احنا بنسمعه من الطرفين الحكومة والمعارضة اللي هو احنا دايرين ده يكون اخر سلام يناقشوه خارج جغرافيا بتاع جنوب السودان. فده برضو بيوري انه الناس دايرين يتطرقوا للمواضيع دي بطريقة جادة.
في لسه تحديات بتاعت انه في لسه في اطراف لسه ما مشاركة في الاتفاقية ده، كيف ممكن يكون اخر مبادرة يعني؟
آخر مبادرة برا جنوب السودان. احنا بنشوف كل الدول دول عندهم مشاكل، لكن مثلا حتى في كينيا دي كذا مرات بيكون عندهم مشاكل دموية، لكن الصلح بيتم داخل الدولة. فالدولة لما تكون دولة يعني عندها مؤسسات ويعني فيها نظام وفيها سيادة كاملة، ويعني بالذات المؤسسات القضائية وكده، بتكون سهل جدا انه اي زول عنده مشكلة حتى ولو برا ممكن يتم مصالحته داخل الدولة. فده المعنية هنا.
الحادي حواري ده بيجيبنا ل 30 دقيقة بعد الساعة 8 أو بعد الساعة 7 في وقت أو في توقيت بتاع جنوب السودان. نرجع لك الميكروفون، نرفع 2 3 أو 4 مكالمات بكل اختصار قبل ما نرجع لضيفنا في الاستوديو دكتورة اياك عشان تجاوب للأسئلة، ومنه حنختم. لك الميكروفون الزميل الحادي.
نعم أكيد في بعض من الأسئلة من المستمعين، خلينا نقراهم ونشيل 2 مكالمة فقط، وبعد ذلك نرجع لكم في استديوهاتنا هناك في نيروبي. في أسئلة مباشرة الدكتورة اياك تشول دينغالاك في فيكتور لونج بيقول good morning Alhadi Hawari. According to me, the root cause of the conflict in South Sudan are 1. Too much corruption without accountability. 2. Tribalism, nepotism, neglect of rule of law, and lack of transparency and system. If those politicians of South Sudan focus discussing these issues, South Sudan will get permanent peace. Victor Long Henry from Juba. This is the question number 1. Number 2, question here on social media from Triple ATM. Say good morning Alhadi Hawari, Emmanuel Joseph Akile, and Dr. Ayak Achol in the studio. Dr. Ayak, how many agreements do you guys want to sign in this country when those of Thomas and Gatwich are still in the bushes? My own opinion is that these negotiations are supposed to hold on until those in the bushes are included, because they are harmful to the people of South Sudan. I'm watching live from High Nazareth, Western Barghazali State. Wow, there, the Triple ATM. Yes, there is a question here from Angui Kwach Awen. Our leaders are not the root cause of the conflict. There is a question here. Accept yourself and come back to the country without negotiation. James Batista say good morning Alhadi Emmanuel Joseph Akile. Call me Ikwang from Rotal City, Loboho village. Emmanuel, if you mind, please, can you give us the South Sudan conflict root cause, highlights, and its account? Yes, this is direct to you, Akile there. Let me just pick some calls and then get back to you there, Akile. Yes, good morning. Hello, radio. Yes, good morning. Hello. صباح الخير.
صباح النور، كيف؟ السلام عليكم.
سلام الرحمة. سؤالك مباشر الضيف حقنا في نيروبي.
معك إيمان الفنادول.
تفضل يا إيمان الفنادول.
أنا داير نسأل في نيروبي. أنا داير سلام في بلد. وسلام اللي بيقولوا قال ما إني يابا مولو في نيروبي. وهنا في نيروبي في ناس ثانيين لسه بعمل مشاكل هنا، مشاكل المسجد وقال في كتابية في نيروبي. ده سلام لسيا ولا ده ما سلام على حقيقة؟ كان ده حقيقة ده قال ده سلام حقيقة. كان ده سلام على حقيقة. ليه ناسوما سيرلو ما included في peace agreement؟ نيروبي دي هذا في جاغابا. ما في فوسي ثانيين لسه دي سامناس أبوسوس وين. That's why we get the salama. Tagulena gal fi salam fi Nairobi. Hal salam de haqiqa wala ma haqiqa. Kede gulen ala haqiqa.
شكرا. يا ريت تكون مختصر زي ما البنادول. هلا راديو.
Radio Hawari, good morning.
Yes, good morning, David Mogok.
Yeah, I have direct question to the mother.
Go ahead.
Mother, the people of South Sudan are suffering. The children are dying. Your husband even are dying. And the women don't even want to cry and don't even want to talk about it. What will be the benefit of this country if all the people, the husband and children are finishing? Where will the women go if they don't talk to their husband or their children to bring peace to the country? Is this one good like this? This is number one. Number two, you have seen that there are too many agreements, and you say that is the last agreement, while the some are not included. We need inclusive agreement. If not so, please do not sign that agreement. We need only one agreement to be brought to the country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that was James. That was David Mogok there from Wow Town of Western Baragazali State. So there is a last question here, Akil, on our social media platform. Say, good morning, Alhadi, Hawari, and watching live from Ethiopia, Gambela. My question direct to Dr. Ayak. Do you think our politicians will bring peace in this country? Why I say this, our government has negotiated many peace like 2018, our access, okay, and Gatwich, and also Orange peace, no change in the country. And up to date, our country is going to collapse. Yes, this is one of the, Daniel Chol Deng from Gambela. Emmanuel Joseph Akila, good morning once again. Back to you there.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning to you once again. Alhadi Hawari وعدد من الأسئلة ونرجع طوال لضيف بتاعنا في الاستوديو دكتورة أياك تشولدين. We have a number of questions and comments on our Facebook page. You have Victor, AAA, we, Ikwang, Emmanuel Panadol, David Magog, and then we have Daniel. You can respond. Let's start with Victor.
Yes, thank you so much. Victor, thank you so much for calling this morning from Juba. The root causes you mentioned are also in the list of root causes that have been tabled. So, yes, the tribalism, the nepotism, the rule of law, the corruption, they are also mentioned there. They are also mentioned. I think what is remarkable is that nobody has contested so far what has been presented, which says a lot. That there is almost some sort of consensus being built over what the root causes are. This is what we want. We want to say we all agree these are the problems. This one we don't agree. This one yes, no. So this is the idea. How many agreements? How many agreements attempt from WOW? We've had too many agreements. Agreements are incremental. Each agreement is reinforced by the next agreement. And if we see all the agreements are foundational. So we have like the CPA had elements of the 1972 agreements. The ARCIS has the AXIS, and the Tumaini is also negotiating the ARCIS and others. So why I say this is because yes, the intention is to be inclusive. The mediation team has reached out several times to Thomas Shirilo. They have reached out to Gatwich Dwal. Gatwich Dwal has logistical challenges because he's caught inside Sudan, which has logistical challenges. He's not able to be here. Thomas Shirilo has not shown interest in joining. He has been requested. He has been spoken to by the President of Kenya directly. He has been invited by the mediator. The chief mediator flew and met him in person in Rome, but he has not shown interest in joining. And so the challenge for us here is to prove to our South Sudanese who are out of this process that this process is genuine. Sometimes you have to move for someone to believe that what you're doing is good. And if this process is signed before they join, then it is for those who are tasked with implementing to operationalize it in a way that gives trust to the people who are outside to join, because trust is something that is built, and if the people, especially if Thomas Shirilo feels he cannot trust, he also has a right, because also citizens have a trust deficit in our leadership. So this is also something, a call, and I've said this before, please, if you are close, if you have access to Thomas Shirilo, please relay this citizens' messages to him that we are waiting for him to join this peace process so that we can all move together. Angwe is asking, are our leaders not the root causes? Leadership crisis is also listed in the root causes. It is there, and it has not been argued. So I think we all agree that to some extent our leaders also have a blame. They also have a share of this. Loboho is asking, can you please highlight, hopefully once we reach a consensus on all these root causes, I'm sure they will be made public. Emmanuel Panadol o Gasa Dogale Tumaini de يعني قاموا كيف سيدة سلام حقيقي وناس لسه في بارا هناك طبعا كلام ده أنا جاوبه بإنجليزي هناك أنا كلم قالي طبعا موضوع ده موضوع تراست موضوع يعني ثقة توماس شيريلو ونسوبه كتير عشان كده وجا لكنه يا أبجا طبعا ويندو أسبابته و these are valid reasons زول ما بقدر كلم ليه تما درجة نبس بقدر أنسو كده جا عشان نديرو كده انضم لعملية السلام ده عشان كده ناس روا قدام سوا. طبعا انت كن كله عارف قالي سلام كامل ما بقدر وصله كان ناس كله ما سوا في موضوع السلام ده، لكن بما انه هو لسه كمان لسه ما جا ما معناه كده ناس جانب كمان كده ناس روا قدام ممكن كانوا عينو قالي process ده serious وكانوا عينو قالي اتفاقية ده كان مداو وكانوا عينو اتفاقية ده جي نفذو في جوبا هناك وفي جنوب السودان بطريقة الكويس ممكن ده جوه دي له بعدين ثقة عشان كده ورجع ورا وكده وينضم للسلام في جنوب السودان. آخر كلام كان من
في ديفيد ماغوك
من ماغوك هو قاعد يسأل what is the role of women? What is the role of women?
People are dying also.
People are dying.
We need inclusive peace.
We need an inclusive process. طبعا I've answered about the inclusivity. But also the role of women cannot be overemphasized. Women are bearing the brunt يا اخوانا. Women are bearing the brunt. أنا بعرف في رجال بيطلعوا من صباح من بيوت وما بيعرفوا ذاته إنه ناس أكلوا شنو الليلة. إنت بتجي بعدين إنت بتلقى المرة دي جازفت وسوت لها أكل من ما فيش يعني we are feeling it. We are feeling it as women in all our ages. We are feeling the pain of this conflict more than anyone. And we are the ones who want this peace yesterday. Gubal Bukra. And that is why in all the corners we are pushing for peace, we are articulating for peace. And that's why also we are here in this process to also show them things from our perspective. And we are also advocating for the negotiating parties to ensure that in their delegations women are represented, because the way women articulate things are different, the way we analyze things are different. It is always human and people-centered. So there's that. Lastly, from Gambela, I was born in Gambela in Itang refugee camp, and so Daniel Chol, you're speaking to my place of birth. Will these people bring peace? Peace is a collective responsibility. I think also us as citizens have to take some blame. As much as there is a leadership crisis, even we can call it a failure, I think honestly we can also say as citizens we are failing to hold our leaders accountable. We are failing to articulate our issues. We are failing. We are in a situation of apathy. We are in this situation of defeat. We are not articulating our issues. And when we feel angry, we take guns and we want to fight. Let people talk. There are avenues. These leaders are part of our communities. They don't live in silos. They're part of our communities. They're in our functions. Before we give them mics to Sigma, let us tell them also that we are suffering, that what we expect of them to deliver. So I feel sometimes we also don't know what our civic rights are. Sometimes I feel we are afraid, and sometimes I think we mix between respect and fear. We respect our leaders. We should not fear them. They're there to represent us. We have a right to ask them and to demand of them. And when they fail, we also tell them, please, ya jama, shukran, min ghair matrud, let us look for people who can deliver your
That's through elections.
job. Yes, through elections, of course.
Yes, we have about 16 minutes. Let me give you 1 minute for your last message before we can wind up, Dr.
I think my message would be, let us have hope. Hope is the one thing that if it dies, everything dies. So I ask us all to have hope, to truly believe that if we truly want as citizens to change, also within our hands we have the power. Our leaders are part of our communities. They're our sons, they're our daughters, they're our husbands, they're our fathers. Let us also use our social avenues to ask them. We can write to their offices, we can speak to our parliamentarians, we can speak to them. Let us desist from violence. Let us desist from polarization. All the corners of South Sudan, people are suffering. I am sure every family has someone they know related by blood who did not eat yesterday night. We have children who cannot afford to go to school. We are struggling. We have families in the refugee camps. We are all suffering. All the 64 tribes and more of South Sudan. We are all going through. This is, you know, I can even say this is probably one of the worst times of our lives as South Sudanese people. We need to come together as people. We need to desist from hate speech. We need to unify across our tribes and our political divides, our religions and our ethnicities. We really need to be one to really deal with this monster that is threatening, these conflicts that are threatening to tear our country apart.
Right. Dr. Ayak Choldeng, representing the Civil Society Forum here at the Tumaini Peace Initiative. Thank you for joining us on the Dawn today. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا للاستضافة وصباح الخير عليكم كلكم.
Right. ده كله ما عندنا الليلة. الحادي حواري في البث المباشر من العاصمة الكينية نيروبي. نرجع لك الميكروفون لمواصلة بتاعت برنامج الدون أنا وزميل بتاعي لو نيلسون إلى أن نلتقي في حلقة جديد يوم الاثنين في الأسبوع الجاي. لكن في خلال اليوم حنقدر نحاول ندي أبديتس للمشاهدين بتاعنا خاصة اللي بيتابعونا على في السوشيال ميديا عن شنو اللي حيحصل. طبعا من يوم الليلة ما من المتوقع إنه الأطراف يتلموا مع بعض زي ما الدكتورة شرحت قبل شوية، لكن الاجتماع الرئيسية حيكون بكرة. ده طبعا في الجلسة اللي حيجيب الأطراف سوا مع بعض. نرجع لك الميكروفون الحادي.
شكرا جزيلا لمن الجزافكيلو، شكرا للدكتورة اياك تشولدين الاك، وهي بتمثل منبر بتاع منظمة المجتمع المدني هناك في مبادرة بتاع تومايني للسلام. شكرا لكم، وانا بقول الاسبوع الجاي هنقابلكم تاني مرة، وبعدين هنقابلكم وحنعرف المزيد والمزيد. شكرا اكيلي. وانا بقول الاسبوع الجاي هنقابلكم تاني مرة، وبعدين هنقابلكم وحنعرف المزيد والمزيد. شكرا.
الناس قاعدة تتونس.
نعم، لكل مستمع في كل مكان. ده برنامج ترددنا الصباحي من آي راديو بيجيكم من الساعة 6 للساعة 8 بالصباح. And now let us know from you as a citizen of this country, what measures should South Sudan undertake after Uganda health officials confirm a case of Ebola in the capital Kampala? Dr. Diana Atuaina, the permanent secretary of the Health Ministry